So I want to just summarize the difference between diffusion and osmosis. On the left, we have osmosis. Osmosis. That's not spelled correctly. Oh no, it is osmosis. And then we have diffusion. So, key points then. In diffusion, the particles that are moving through the membrane or from one place to another are the particles that are causing the concentration. So for example, we could have some sugar molecules inside some water, and so the stuff with the side that has a high concentration has a lot of sugar or glucose, which is a type of sugar. And on the other side, the dilutes, the low concentration, is when they don't have much glucose. And it's the glucose that is the thing that is moving. It can move both directions, but it's going to move from a high concentration to a low concentration more often than from a low concentration to a high concentration. And so overall, it moves from a high concentration to a low concentration until the concentrations are equal, and that's when we have equilibrium. That's diffusion. Now, in the case of osmosis, again, we have sugar molecules here. It's not the sugar molecules that move. That's the key point. In diffusion, it's the sugar molecules that move. In osmosis, it's the water molecules that move. Okay? Now, in both of them, it's about approaching equilibrium. So neither of these processes need energy to in order for them to happen. You will later on look at something called active transport, which does need energy, because with active transport you work against the concentration gradient. But in both of these, we work with the concentration gradient and we're approaching equilibrium. But the way in which it does it is different. In the case of diffusion, it's the sugar molecules that move. In the case of osmosis, it's the water molecules that move. So if we look at this semi-permeable membrane, you'll notice that the gaps are actually too small for the sugar molecules to move. Only the water molecules can move. And which side is going to move the most? Well, it's not really demonstrating it very well with these arrows, but basically you're going to have we're going to have water moving from the left to the right more often than you will from the right to the left. And so what sometimes gets talked about is something called water concentration. And water concentration is a little bit confusing. We could do with maybe drawing a couple more sugar molecules. Let's draw one sugar molecule there. So I don't. Oh, that's actually not. That's about right, isn't it? There we go. So we can say that it's not zero concentration, but it's a low concentration. So you can see on the left, it's got a low concentration of sugar, but what we can say, if we want to use the term, it's got a high water concentration. It's a weird term to use because it can cause some confusion. But basically, on the left, on the left of this diagram here, we have high. Let's say low concentration of glucose. Can't type at all. Low concentration of glucose, and we can call this a high water concentration because you can see that there's a large amount of water. There's a large percentage of the stuff is water. High water concentration. The reason why they want you to talk, the reason why they tend to use water concentration is because that's the thing that's moving. Okay, so this is a low concentration of water. It's a high water concentration. And then opposite on the left. Okay, so but I suppose in the case of diffusion, it was the glucose that was moving, and so more glucose was moving from the high to the low. In this case, more water is moving from the high water concentration to the low water concentration, there will be more movement of water molecules from the high water concentration to the low water concentration. But it leads to the same process happening anyway. If I were to remove water molecules over on this left-hand side, then this single sugar molecule that I've drawn here would cause this whole left-hand side to become more highly concentrated in sucrose. Actually, in this case, be more highly concentrated because there's less water there, and so the small amount of sugar will make it strong. It's the same as if you had, again, the example I gave with like having a glass of squash. If you were able to remove the water molecules from your glass of squash but leave the squash in it, it's going to get more concentrated. Whereas if I add water, it's going to get less concentrated. So it's not the movement of the squash, it's the movement of the water, and it's in and out of a semi-permeable membrane. So that's osmosis. Okay?